I'll get that to you this afternoon. And now that, if it's a bigger file, I'll have to send that. I'll have to send it. Yeah, I sent it to the same one that sent that originally. Perfect. Perfect.
All right. Okay. So now it's time to start building the console. And so what we're going to do is we're going to be setting up the front of house console right here, which is a Behringer wing. And the way we're going to do it, the easiest way to set up the console is with the touch screen, it's actually pretty easy to set up there. And there's a few things that you can do on that you can't do on the software, but we're going to use the software today so that I can easily show you and kind of walk you through the step-by-step process from setting up a console from absolute scratch. And we're going to be doing that using a program called Mixing Station. So as I build the console, I'll kind of fill you in on what I'm doing. But the first thing I want to do is just share that screen with you. We'll just go here. Yeah, let's see. We go there. Let's do that. All right, we'll open that up. Okay, perfect. So now that brings us over to this screen here. And when you first open up Mixing Station, let me go ahead and actually show you that. Because in order for this to work, you have to have the computer that you're working on and the wing connected to the same network. And in this case, that's done through just a standard router. It's pretty standard fare. Let me go ahead and I'll show you exactly how that process happens. So for instance, we go back out here. When you first open up the app, you get this screen and you've got a lot of different console options to choose from, which is really great because you learn this one app and it'll actually allow you to interact with multiple consoles. But basically what I've done here physically is I physically connected the Ethernet port of the wing to a wireless router that's connected to the internet. Really, that doesn't need to be connected to the internet, but it's connected to the internet so I can do the Zoom call. And then my laptop is wirelessly connected to that same router. That's really all that you have to do. And then when I click into this wing area and I go to search, and I have to use in trial mode because I don't have the paid version, but if you don't have the paid version, you just play the trial version. We'll just have to reset it every 15 minutes. And then it'll start, I think it's trying to show us that this is the wing we're looking for, but for some reason it was acting up. But this, in fact, is the wing. And for instance, if I move a fader, you can't see this. Maybe I can show you. But like if I go over here, you can actually see if I move this fader, you actually maybe see that fader physically moving. So I know that I have a connection to the console. So really the main connection is made, and now I can start making my changes. The first thing that you have to do with the wing, it's a little bit different than my other processes, but like the first thing with the wing is establishing and labeling your sources. And all a source is where the sound is originating from. And in our case, our sources are really primarily within the AES-50 network. There's 3 Cat5 connections that provide up to 48 channels in both directions via stage boxes called SD8s or SD16s. And these little breakout boxes give you inputs and outputs, and you just connect them like Christmas lights. So however many you have connected is how many inputs. Well, we've got some SD8s connected on stage that are following along a Cat5 cable that are plugged into the back of the wing. And so we just want to be able to label what they are. And so for instance, on the stage left, that's going to be our B side. We have 3 ports, A, B, and C. The B port is going to stage left, which is where most of our channels are going to be coming from. So the first thing that I want to do is go to this routing screen, and I want to click on sources. And so within sources, this is the place where you have all different places where sound can come from. You've got 8 inputs built onto the mixer itself. You've got, auxiliary, you've got, all these different places. Even you can pull stuff off the USB card, stage connect, all these things. But the primary way that we get signal to the console is through the AES-50 ports. And we have 3 of them, 1, 2, 3. Now, A and B are used for our stage boxes. A is going to be stage left, house right. B is stage left. So right now we're going to be working on stage left. So we're going to go into the B side. And as you can see, these are all of our sources. We have 48 channels. And really how we label these really depends on what is going to be plugged into them. So just to give you an idea, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we have 8 rows down. The first 8 channels are going to be for our track rig. So I know that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just start pressing and holding. And if I like over here, I can assign their color. I can make some adjustments here, and I can also label them. I think I should be able to label them. Yes, that's where I label it. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So basically what we're going to do is the first thing I'm going to do is label the colors. The first 8 sources are going to be colored red because I typically go from warm colors to cool colors, warm colors being the more beefy, bassy instruments like a drum kit. So I label all of my drum sources red. So I know I'm going to have 8 drum channels, and I got ahead of myself because that's actually not the first 8. The first 8 is actually going to be my tracks, and those are going to be green. So I'm just going to make sure that the color for all of these is going to be this green right here. So I'm going to label all of these green. 1, 2, 3. 5, 6, 7, and 8. All right. So we got our colors. Now, the next thing is I personally like to use icons. Some people don't like icons, but for the what's called a channel strip on the board, the icon is a little picture that kind of tells you what it is. And to me, at least for me, it's a little easier to read than text. I can just look at the image and go, oh, I know that's a kick drum. So we select our icon. Where do we select our icon? Because I don't see it in this screen. Okay, well, I don't see that just yet. Well, we'll not worry about that just yet. Maybe icons are only on channels, maybe not sources. But we're going to go ahead and label. We're going to go ahead and label this as, this is the track rig. The first thing that's going to be is our click. Click. Next one's going to be, this is going to be E and H bass, not to be confused with our live bass, but E and H bass. We'll hit that. And then the next are going to be stereo channels. And first one is going to be E and H drums L. And this is going to be actually, and you know what? If I make this a stereo source, it'll go ahead and label them both the same. So a stereo source means that there's a left and right. And it's really important before you assign your source to a channel that you decide whether that source is stereo. In this case, these 2 inputs are stereo, and you always have to plug things in odd to even. And they have to be next to each other in order for it to be registered as a stereo source. All right, the next one is going to be instruments, E and H, I and C. And that's also a stereo. And as you can see, it just paired them for me. And then we have one last stereo pair, and that's E and H BGV. And then we also make that stereo. Okay, perfect. Now that's really all that we have to set for these first 8. We don't have to enable for phantom power. Those aren't phantom channels. Pretty much everything is now good to go. Now the next 8 channels are going to be my drum channels. They're the ones that are going to come right after that SD8. It's going to break out, and it's going to be next to the drums. And those are going to be the drum breakout. And so those, like I said before, are going to be red. So we're just going to do 8 channels of red. And 8. All right. So now 9 through 16 are red. So the next thing we want to do is just go ahead and label that. This is going to be the kick. It's going to be the snare. This is going to be the hi-hat. This is going to be tom 1, tom 2, or middle tom, and then this is going to be tom 3. And then the last two are going to be a stereo pair FOH L, overhead left, and this is going to be overhead R. Now, normally, oops, you know what? I don't actually have to do that. These are just overheads, so we're going to just call these overheads. Or just actually, we'll do OH. And because that's a stereo channel, again, I don't have to do left and R, like left L and R. That was my old school days of reminding that. All right, so we got our overheads in. Now, normally overheads would be overhead microphones that are condenser microphones that need 48-volt power. But in this case, this is going to be an electric kit, and we don't need to engage 48 power. So our drums are now done. And from here, the next thing that we want to do is our bass, electric, and acoustic. So our next channels are going to be orange. Like for our bass, I usually like to make that orange. So we'll make bass orange, and we're going to call it bass. And they're using a J48 for their bass. So I'm going to go ahead and enable that 48 volts. Got to press and hold to make that active. That just means it's going to send some power down the console in order to power active direct boxes, and the J48 is an active direct box. And up next is our electrics. Now we're going to be using a helix pedal, which makes this very simple. But because the helix is a stereo left and right connection, I'm going to go ahead and skip that. I'm going to put the acoustic here because I need to put mono instruments on an even channel because I can't pair an 18 and a 19 channel as a stereo pair. So I'm going to go ahead and make, oh, got to research, go back into it. All right. And let's go back to here. Go back to sources. And let's go back to where we were. B. All right. Okay. Our labels are still in place. Wonderful. All right. So here we've got, now for some reason, I don't know how that happened, but the bass was set to stereo and it's actually a mono. Now the acoustic, I want to make this yellow. We'll do a lighter yellow. Actually, yeah, we'll do the lighter yellow for the acoustic and the darker yellow for the electric. Actually, no, we'll just keep them all that yellow. It's all good. Okay, so the acoustic, we're just going to call this acoustic. And then up next, we have our electrics. And so this is, like I said, we're going to plug in a helix here. And that, again, is going to be yellow. We're going to call this electric guitar. And that one is stereo because that's going to go straight from the helix into that. So that takes up our next two channels. And then from here, we're going to plug in the piano. Piano, I typically use green. All right, so green, and we'll call this piano. And also piano is also going to be in stereo. One of the most important things when setting up a console is any instrument that's a stereo instrument, don't run it in mono. If you really want to improve your sound, run all your instruments in stereo. That's one of the best ways to instantly improve the sound. And of course, that only matters if your front of house is actually running in true stereo, where the left side goes to the left speaker and the right side goes to the right speaker. But if that's the case, you definitely want to run everything that is in stereo in stereo. That is the number one way to improve your sound. Okay, now from here, the only thing left right now that we're going to set up, because we got our track set up, we got our drum set up, and we got some basic instrument set up. The only thing from here that we need to work on is assigning our microphones. Now, our microphones are actually on. Oh, I messed up a whole lot. I messed up a whole lot. I think I got a whole lot of routing wrong because I missed. So guess what? I have to relabel a lot of stuff because I did a lot of stuff wrong. So we're just going to go back and do all this again because I forgot that my first layer, my first 8 are my vocal mics. My second layer is tracks and my third layer is drums and so on. So, and my fourth layer is everything else. So that was my fault. Okay. So we're going to quickly go through this again. I guess it's good review. So these are all going to be blue. Okay, there we go. Yep, that's blue. Next round, actually, that needs to be mono again. All right. And then this one is also blue. Okay, perfect. Now these need to be green because these now are our tracks. Then our red tracks, we're going to do 8 of those. Let's go over here. Okay. And then the next one's going to be orange for our bass. Then yellow for our acoustic. And then yellow again for our electric. And then finally, green for our keys. Okay, now let's see if I got this right. Okay, so we have 8 blue channels. These are our vocal channels, and I've got to label these. So I'm going to be checking over to my wireless packs. 6, 6, 2. All right. Okay, so in this case, this is actually Pastor Reed. Same with the pastor, that's his mic. And these are in strange order, but we're going to go with it. Worship leader 2, WL2 for worship leader 2. Then the third one is 7 and 1. 7 and 1. WL7. And then finally, WL1. And that's Corey. We'll go ahead and put his name on there since that's his mic. All right. Then the next two. Josh 8, 3. Josh 8, WL3. All right. Josh. W3. And then we have the last two. 4, 4 WL5. All right, so my vocals are labeled. Now it's time to move once again onto tracks. So I just got to label those. First one is click. Next one is bass. That's ENH bass. Then we have our drums, ENH drums. And that's a stereo channel. I want to make sure that everything up to here is not stereo. Oh, see that one right there? I got to fix that because that was stereo. So this third one is supposed to be 7. So we got to keep an eye on that, obviously. WL7. All right. And then Corey. Then that. Oh, that also said stereo. I forgot to change that out. That one. 8. Josh. It's supposed to be Josh. Okay, Josh. WL3, WL4, WL5. All right. Click. ENH bass. Okay, now we have stereo channel. This one's going to be ENH drums. We've got that. Next one is ENH instruments, and that's going to be stereo. So go ahead and make that. Okay. And then finally, our last stereo pair, which is ENH BGV. And we'll go ahead and reconnect. Go back to our routing screen here. All right, we're getting close. Snare. One. Two. 3. Oh, wait a second. I know what I did here. That's not supposed to be stereo. Make sure that, okay. Yep. Pay attention here. Kick, snare, hi-hat. Hi-hat, tom 1, tom 1, tom 2, tom 3, and then overheads. That is a stereo channel. We'll do FOH. Perfect. And we have our bass, acoustic. And that's stereo. Then we have piano. And that's also stereo. Okay, perfect. So we have filled up now the first 30 channels, which that should set us for a while. That's most of our channels. So we're going to start there. And from here, we are going to actually build our first set of channels on the console. So we're going to back out of this screen and we're going to go back to our channels. And we're going to start assigning these sources. So if I go into my first channel here, actually, if I go to routing and I go to channels, this is basically how we're going to route those sources now to our channels. These are our channels right here. And the first one is assigned to kick, but obviously that's not what we're going to, well, it is actually supposed to be kick, but so starting with layer one, the first layer on our channels is going to be laid out differently than our sources, because I like to order my channels where the drums appear first, because they're the first things that you want to mix. So kick is properly assigned, but if I click on it and I go to signal, I'm going to go to B and I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to find my kick, and there it is right there. And the way that I'm going to assign these very, very quickly on the board is first by unlocking it, but then I'm going to press this +1 so that as I select each channel, it's going to move on to the next channel. So I can just kind of like rapid fire assign these very, very quickly. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to assign these first 8 channels straight to the wing very quickly. Oh, man. And I have to do that. Oh, that's not going to be quick. I thought it was going to be quick. And this is actually something I am going to do on the console because it's quicker. So I'm going to, you can watch this screen, but I'm going to go ahead and assign these. Keep things nice and simple. Okay, so our first 8 channels, as you can see, have now been assigned to drums. And I'm going to leave the first layer just like that. I've got 4 on the wing. I've got 12 channels of layers, and I'm just going to leave that first layer for drums. That way, if they want to add a drum pad, they've got 2 channels for that. Also, if they want to add drum talkback, there's some space for that. So this is one thing on a console. I usually leave open channels in each section to keep things nice and tidy. That way, it makes adding channels to a section easy. So moving on to layer 2, that's where the bass is going to start. So layer 2 here, that's going to start at channel 13. And from there, I'm going to go ahead and start populating in the bass. So starting there, then my electric, then my acoustic, then my piano. Okay, so basically the first 4 channels in layer 2 are set to that. Now, the next thing we're going to probably put in layer 3 is going to be, well, actually, in layer 2, we'll go ahead and put our tracks in the next row. So I'm thinking, yeah, let's see. We're going to put our music tracks at the front, and then we'll put click at the end. So what we'll do is this layer right here, it's channel 17, starting at 17, we're going to put in our tracks here. And those are going to be first bass. Actually, let me go back and do that one again. Start with our drums, then bass, then instruments, then voice. So that fills up that layer. Oh, so something's not right. Let me go back to here. Let's fix that here. Drums, bass, Instruments. It just keeps adding on. What is going on here? It's not what I'm wanting it to do. Okay. Start over. Okay, now it's in the right spot. Perfect. That's what we wanted. So that fills up the track layer on layer 2. And then at the end of this, way over here on channel 24, we're going to put our click. So that finishes out that layer. And we've got some empty layers in there, which is fine. Then finally, our third layer, we're going to go ahead and use that for all of our singing microphones. I put the singing microphones at the front, and then I put all the way at the very end the speaking. So the last two channels, that would be channel 35 and 36, are going to be the speaking mics. I'm not sure which ones those are, but and even though on the sources, all the worship leader numbers were all over the place, like we're going to label them on the channel. That's one of the good things about kind of a nonlinear environment. I can put all my worship leaders in a row. So I'm going to put Corey at the front. He's WL1. Now I do have to pay attention to make sure that I do this correctly, but I'm going to put these in order. And let's go down here. Let's go down just so that you can see all of those. Actually, since this one's a little bit less straightforward, I can do this one on here. So starting with channel 25, saying what channel 25, we're going to get this again from B. But as you can see, we want WL1, which is Corey. There it is. And channel 27 or 26 actually is going to be WL2. WL2, if we can find it. Now to open this up again. Bass, instrument, BGV. Where are we? Where are we? Channel 26. Okay, there's Corey. Corey, channel 26 needs to be WL2. So that's WL2. There it is. All right, so that one's in. This one's going to be WL3. There it is. This is going to be WL4. There we go. And then finally, channel 29 is going to be WL5. All right. Now we have some other channels after that. So let's take a look at what's left over. 5, we have 3 more. One of them is Pastor Reed, Josh. Oh, we have more WLs. We have WL6. Oh, that's interesting. WL7. Huh, okay. So there is no WL6 apparently, because 6 is Pastor Reed. But we're going to skip WL6 and we're going to go straight to WL7, which is right here. There's WL7. Now, when these are assigned to channels, we will give them more specific names, like whoever is holding that microphone, for instance, we'll change it to their name. But for now, this will be sufficient. All right, and then I believe we have now just the last two is going to be 35 and 36. We're going to make that one Josh, and the last one will be Pastor Reed. He'll be holding up everything. So Josh will be here, and Pastor Reed will be right here. Perfect. All right. And you can't see my console right now, but everything is labeled and all of our channels are populated. So that's the basic setup now is good. Now we'll move on to the next step, but I'm going to go ahead and end this video here. And this is kind of just the basic labeling is complete, but we'll continue it on here in a little bit.